Hey, Em.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
Doing okay. How are you?
Once again, these are
How?
pre-recorded, so if the world's on fire, we're so
We're
sorry.
not sure.
I don't know what to say.
That could always be the case, though. When we say like, "How you doing?" We say we're so good, and then the world's
Yeah,
on
there's like
fire.
there was like some like horrific natural disaster that's occurring. I
Right?
guess that's true. As a
Exactly. That
reminder,
could
nothing we do is
always
live.
be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Listener Paula wrote in, if you had to wear, this is very funny. If you had to wear a t-shirt with your most used phrase or saying, what would the shirt say?
Mine would probably be "That's so nice." I say that all the time.
You went through a phase though where you said like, "Oh, that's special."
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing. I haven't
Yeah.
said that in a while,
No, you
though.
haven't. You forgot about that phrase.
I forgot, but
Um,
I really want to start saying "yikes" more.
oh, I say yikes a lot. What do I say?
I should
You
know this
you also
considering
used
we.
to say oof.
Oh, I still love oof.
Yes, you say oof a lot.
Oof.
Yeah,
I
that one.
actually, that does happen.
That would be on your shirt.
It
Yes,
feels
that would be
right
yours.
now
Yeah.
that it's coming out of my mouth. Oof.
Look, I know you better than you know me.
Whoa. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me.
On my me. None of this matters.
That's good.
Probably saying,
Actually, if we start talking and you
you'll
say
hear me.
something that sounds familiar, I'll let you know.
Okay.
It's such a good question, though.
I can tell you what my dad's is. My dad has this phrase that I told him I'm going to put on his gravestone, and it would be very funny on a gravestone, which is in the end, like every time my dad's talking, he'll be like, and in the end, I'm like, Dad, that's going to go on your fucking headstone. It's going to say, and in the end, you were dead.
You're dead.
In the end, it was the end.
My dad's would be, well, what are you gonna do? We were at this is how much it is his saying. We were at a funeral,
No.
and I think it was like someone died on my mom's side. Someone, people come up and they say, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm standing next to my dad. We're at like, I guess the Shiva or something, and someone came up to him and they were like, I'm so sorry for your loss. And he goes, yeah, what are you gonna do? And I look over at him and I was like, are you serious? That's your response?
What are you going to do? They're dead.
What do you exactly?
Ah!
I was like, Dad, really? What are you gonna do? Like, can we work on maybe some other choice phrases to say when someone says, I'm so sorry? I mean, like, yeah, fair. What are you gonna do? But
A bit
still,
nonchalant for the
really,
situation, though,
yeah,
right?
just say thank you. I think maybe just say thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And then
Yeah,
let
my
and then
dad
keep
just
on
says, and
going.
in the end, here we are. I'm like, what are you talking about? In that,
We
what
put our
ends?
dads, if we put our dads in a room together, they would just be saying like these grand
Catchphrases
statements that mean nothing.
just to hear themselves talk.
Exactly.
That would be the whole conversation.
Oh, it's good. That is good.
No, right now, my dad can only talk about politics. I had to ask them to turn CNN off at their house while they were watching my daughter the other day. And
Yeah.
I said, she doesn't need to hear this, please.
Right. Protect
I
her while
just
she's young.
protect her. She is coming home asking questions that I cannot explain.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know. You're
This
5.
isn't the time.
This is not
Right.
the time. We're going to talk about motivation and spite today. And we've talked about using spite for motivation for ourselves, but it's a slightly controversial topic because the actual like definition of spite is to like intentionally hurt people.
Right. And we
we're
realize
not we're not endorsing that.
we're not endorsing that at all. And we realize we've talked about how the thing that has helped us grow our business is spite. And so when we are talking about this type of spite, we're not talking about the spite that intentionally goes to hurt other people. Let's just say that. um, but one of the things, Emmalee and I both have ADHD. And so motivation and focus is like a very tricky thing for the both of us. Tricky being like,
And if you've listened to this
here.
podcast one time, you could probably guess that.
Because we're just bopping around to every goddamn such subject. So motivation specifically and focus is like a very once again, tricky thing for the both of us. And when we were just getting out of grad school and we were younger, so much of the time we were hearing people say, you guys aren't going to be able to do that. You won't be able to do that. Why are you using that name? What's, like there was a lot of telling us we couldn't do something. And I think also when you grow up with ADHD, like it is easy to be hard on yourself about like getting things done and your lack of motivation and your lack of focus when you are put into kind of the school system. And like I was undiagnosed my whole life. And
not me.
Yeah.
First grade, they're like, I can tell you what this chick has.
Yeah, I was more of like the like sleepy type.
Yes. But that's why it's takes so often people are like, well, what the fuck? I was diagnosed so much later in life. It's because it isn't this really simple way to diagnose people. Yeah. And then people get to adulthood. I was so lucky that I got diagnosed early because I got so many services and I got so much different support that like many people do not get.
Yeah.
Diagnose your kids early, folks.
Yeah. And because you can get them so much support. So it's easy to be hard on yourself about motivation. And you have to figure out hacks or tricks in order to be motivated or stay focused. And so when you own a business or when you're creating a business, you need to kind of figure those things out. Right. So one of the things that really motivated us from the beginning was people saying to us, you're not going to be able to do that. You guys are so young. And so we used that as a huge motivator. And let me say, I always have used that as a motivator. For example, if I ever went through a breakup.
Yes.
I was like, okay, I'm going to just go crush my life now. Like I am going to, okay, you don't want to be in this. Well, you just wait.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to sleep with your friends.
See, that I think is the other type of spite.
Mine was the different type of spite. You're not interested in me. Neither is anyone else because I'm nuts. But either way, see you in the morning when I'm walking down your frat ass hallway.
That is so bad. I'm going to go to sleep with your friends. See? I was more like, I am just going to be successful and I'm going to do this.
I'm like, also, please don't love me. Do you like me yet? Are you jealous? Please tell me you like me. Please, does anyone love me? My self-esteem is so low. It was a hard time in my early 20s, guys.
Listen. So the spite that we're talking about, the helpful type of spite to use towards motivation is proving someone wrong. Right? To say like, you tell me I can't do this, I'm going to do that. We are not talking about hurting people. Yeah. Because a lot of people wrote questions in because they wanted to clarify this because we've talked about it before. The one thing I will say is that you need to also have other tricks for motivation. It can't be the only thing because then you need people to constantly be telling you can't do something.
It's your only form of motivation.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say about this fight. When I was reading up on this, there was a author, Stephen Kotler, I believe is an author. Please correct me if he's not, who talks about hacking kind of your flow state. And he talked about the difference between big S spite and little s spite, and that the little s spite is the spite that helps you be motivated. The big S spite is like, I'm going to go sleep with your friends and hurt you.
Oh, okay. Got it. Makes sense.
But yeah, he talks about like getting yourself into the flow state and how, once again, as two women with ADHD, that's something that is important for us to like nudge us into that flow state in order to get motivated, in order to stay focused. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. I think for me, spite is such a good initial motivator, but it doesn't last long term.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like I can use it as the catalyst, but then I have to connect with something deeper, right? So like if the whole point of the therapy now was just to to prove people wrong, I don't think it would really be where it is.
Right. 100%.
And
because
all of a
Sorry.
sudden at the beginning, it was like, one, we wanted to do this, but also we really wanted to prove people wrong. And then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, fuck, we're doing something, right? Like people are, this is working
Yeah.
and people are finding a place to go and clinicians are finding a place where they're not burnt out, right? So like all of a sudden it was about something so much deeper than proving people wrong. And then you don't care about proving people wrong anymore.
Right.
But the initial catalyst, I mean, chef's kiss, baby, really good for me.
Chef's kiss. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that that's what's also really important is that if you're using that as a motivator for yourself, then in the process, like how does it become deeper? Like what can you find that can help motivate you?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest motivations for us now is how we see the therapy group helping clients and helping clinicians.
Yeah.
And so that now has become our biggest motivator is like just kind of the bigger picture of things. Where at first, before we had built anything, it was impossible to have that, right? Like we had the mission, we had, oh, this is something we want to do. This is something we want to prove that we can do. But we didn't have a proven concept yet. Once we had the proven concept, we see that it's helping people and supporting clinicians, supporting clients. That is when we take that and we use that as a motivator. So
Yeah.
I think spite can be the small s spite can be helpful at the beginning, but then you have to find some other motivation, right?
Yeah.
What
Right.
else am I doing this for?
It's a great motivator until it's not.
Yeah.
And then something else.
I often have this motivation thought when I'm like working out because it's really difficult for me to work out. And like at first it was like, this is for my mental health. And it still is, but it's also for like my routine.
Well, that's the thing for me is there will never be a day that I wake up and I'm like, I can't wait to work out today. Like that
Right.
day is literally never gonna come for me. And I'm
Never.
someone who, I mean, for years have done the same gym and do the same time. And for me, it's routine, not motivation. I don't fucking
Yeah.
have motivation to work out. I have no interest in it. When afterwards, of course, I feel amazing. And when I'm doing it, I'm proud of myself. You know what I mean? But like, I don't wake up in the morning like, hell yeah, I want to do a burpee. But it's part of my routine. It's part of my ritual. And I also have to understand that it's something that's for me that I get to do each day because I'm very lucky that I am able to like afford a workout class and to take care of my body in a certain way and to have a body that's able to move in certain ways. But no, I have no motivation. I have routine.
Yeah. That part I have to remind myself a lot. Like I get to do this. I love
Yes.
that like switch in my head. I'm
Not I
not like
have
I
to.
have to do this. Like I
Yeah.
get to do this.
Well, and for me, for decades of my life, working out was about weight loss.
Right.
Right. And so it was like you worked out because you ate or you worked out to make your body look a certain way. And now, because I work out, I have no, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not my goal at all.
Right.
I just feel lucky I get to move my body and I know that it's good for my body and I can feel a difference. If I don't work out for a few days, I can really feel it on my body.
Right.
And it used to be about seeing it, and it's not like that now.
And so you change the motivation.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you have to change your why sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because if your why is also all about the outcome, like if you and I had started a therapy group and it was like, okay, we have to make this amount of money and we have to have this amount of growth and this amount of clinicians, I think that would have been exhausting. We didn't have any of that shit.
No, we didn't.
We were like, guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. We were like, we just want to build this. We'll see how this goes.
I just don't want to work for someone else. That's it.
Everyone always asks us too, like, oh, did you have a business plan? Did you? Sure didn't. Not at the beginning.
Still working on it now. I mean, and so I think that's the thing is like, but that would have felt like too much pressure to me.
Yeah.
If we had, right? It was what it was about. You know what I mean? And that must be how people feel when they have investors. We didn't have investors. We're like, we're going to put this on a credit card.
Yes. We're going to rent furniture.
We have a loan. We literally put some shit on a credit card, prayed, and just took everyone we could out to lunch, right? Like that was the whole business plan. But if I had to like make a certain amount of money or repay back, you know what I mean? Like that would have felt like pressure that like I don't do well with. So some people like talk about like procrastination. They love that. I'm okay with that sometimes, but I'm not good at pressure.
Same. I'm okay with I like almost need that sometimes to like get certain things. It really depends. But what we're talking about specifically when we're talking about spite and motivation is that your motivation for things to keep doing things allow it to shift and change over time. The thing that helped us initially was kind of infusing that spite into what we're doing and what we're creating. We're going to prove people wrong. And we also have a vision. We also have things that we want to do. We don't know how it's going to go. We don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
But we allowed our motivation to shift and change. And I think that when you don't, right, like if spite is your only motivator, then you're going to have to keep creating situations where you like need to be spiteful. And that's eventually going to wear on you, right? Eventually that's going to, because it's coming from a place of like, I'm going to prove you wrong. It could come from a place of anger. And so, in order to continue to be motivated, if you're doing the same thing over and over, you have to pull from different places, that it can't just be this level of spite.
Yeah. Okay. I find myself fueled by spite. I had a breakup and I got into the best routine and felt my best and truly transformed. But I lost the motivation of spite and I can't seem to get myself back to that routine. How do I keep myself in that headspace of being my best when I can't seem to do it just for myself? Ooh, so that's the question, right? It works until it doesn't. You're like, oh, I went through the breakup and now I actually don't care about that person. So now I'm like, nah, fuck it, doesn't matter anymore.
So here's what I want you to do, right? You think about what was motivating you before, right? I was motivated because I want to prove to this person that like I'm going to crush it. They lost the best thing that ever happened to them. I want you to also ask yourself, what were these things doing for me? Separate from the person, see if you can get connected to the reasons why this was helpful just for you, separate from other people. Find the internal motivation, and I want you to start harnessing it. This is, once again, what I have to do for myself when I'm working out is like really be like, how is this helpful for me? Like what is this doing for me? Because it's so hard for me to get motivated. So you really have to look at the ways in which you're talking to yourself about your experience. If the only thoughts that were going through your head when you are becoming the best version of yourself is, I'm going to prove them wrong, I'm going to show them, you need to start to change your internal monologue, to start to think about, well, let me, how is this helping me? I feel really good today. I have a lot of energy today. Like what are the ways in which it is helpful just for you? So look at your internal monologue and start to question or start to change the way you're talking to yourself about the motivation. That's really key and really important. Another thing I do once again when I'm working out is like I look at my thoughts about how the things that I'm saying to myself during it, like when I'm miserable, I'll say things like, this is horrible. When is this going to be over? Like I'm constantly, and the things that are helpful is like just staying really present. Thinking about other things is really helpful too.
I mean,
So,
I'll just say, like, at least I'm moving my body in some way. Like, if I have to modify, if I have to do whatever, I'm like, hey, man, I fucking showed up today and I'm moving my body, and moving my body and taking care of myself is good. That's it.
Yes, 100%.
I don't need to be the biggest, fastest person in that fucking room because that will literally never happen for me.
Right. Same.
Because I'm also the least, my other issue is I have not a competitive bone in my body.
Same.
So I'm like, nah.
At least, like athletic,
yeah,
competitive. I mean, we might be competitive and like, maybe not. Yeah, like if I'm playing something, like I tried to play pickleball with my husband is so competitive. Like he is,
and he's involved in 1,000,000 things.
1,000,000 things because that serves him, right? He like loves to be competitive. If he loses, he like wants to die. If he wins, he's like on top of the world. I do not have that at all. So we will play something. And if someone else, like if he gets a good shot, I'll be like, oh my God, great job. Like if I lose, I'll be like, you did such a good job.
I'm like, you showed up, babe.
Wow.
I'm proud of you. Like my standards for myself are real low.
Right. Like when I was playing soccer when I was younger, your parents, you try to get into like sports and like intramurals and
no, that was not my experience. No,
not me. Oh, okay. So
my parents didn't want to drive me anywhere. So they
Oh.
weren't really encouraging me to do anything. So I was like, meh.
I was just not the athletic type. Like I would like go to kick the ball. I would like kick someone's like shin guard by accident. I'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Just not, contact sports, not meant for
Yeah.
me.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
Not my thing. Um, Next question. What happens when motivation runs out? Just like we said, this is
it
the
will.
time to find it will. Expect it to. This is the time to find new ways to motivate yourself. And here's something I forget where I heard this, so I apologize, but I remember hearing this and it stuck with me. This sense of you do not have to be motivated to do something. I think so often we feel like, well, I don't have the motivation, so I can't do it.
Yeah. Doesn't mean I still do shit all the time. I have no motivation.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just do things that you're not motivated to do.
Because, right. Okay. I think about this in terms of like self-care, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not motivated to do my taxes, but I know if I pay my quarterly taxes, it will feel better. I do things to help also future Emmalee.
Yes.
Like I don't have motivation to do these things, but there's certain stuff where I also think about like, well, what are my values and
Yeah.
my beliefs? I often don't have motivation to like, um, call up like an older family member or something, right? Or like, someone extended. But like those relationships matter to me. And so I say, like, okay, like this is something I need to do. And usually when you do it, you're really glad you did.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I pay the taxes, I'm like, all right, I did it. I did the stupid taxes. I did
Right.
the bookkeeping, right? Like, like I'm never going to be thrilled at it, but it always feels good. Like every therapist that's listening to your notes, just,
Yeah.
you're never going to be motivated to do your
Once
notes.
you're done. Right. Right.
Just do
I
them.
think thinking about the feeling that comes from getting it done, right? That can be the motivator. So I want you to think about like all the things you have to do in your day, right? Or like all the things you have to do in general. And I want you to look at, well, like, what's the reason why I do them, right? Maybe initially, the spite is so strong that it's easy to locate, right? It's easy to locate, that person fucked me over. And so,
Yeah. Well, it comes from like anger, right?
yeah,
And anger is an action emotion. It's very
yes.
helpful.
And it's so present, right? It's so present. You can locate it, you see it, it's in your face. Um, but I want you to look at maybe the other small reasons why you do things, right? Like, what are the motivators? I want you to write them down, right? Is it because it aligns with my values? Is it because after I do this, I know that I'm like putting a coin into this relationship bucket, right? Like, what are the reasons I'm maintaining these relationships? It's keeping me from being isolated. What are the reasons why I do other things? And I want you to write them down and I want you to look at them. And I want you to just get very familiar with those reasons because when it's hard to find motivation, I want you to be able to quickly locate, like, here are the reasons why I do these things. It might not feel good right now. Eventually, it's going to feel good or it's going to align with my values. And so making them more present in your mind, in your conscious mind, I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's just spite is easier to locate. These other things are harder to locate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that is the way it is though, right? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's like Gottman, right, who says that you need 5 good experiences in your relationship for every one negative experience because
yeah,
the negative experiences
it's so big,
are so
so
big,
powerful.
right?
Yeah.
So powerful, right? And so it's the same thing in our minds. Those like negative experiences are so much stronger.
Yeah.
Spite is so much stronger than some of those like positive reinforcements.
Yeah. So someone says, I enjoy proving people wrong, but is that relying too much on external validation? If it's the only thing you do, then yeah.
Yeah.
If you sometimes use it, then no. What's too much?
Right. Right.
I guess you're going to have to define like what, I mean, truly, like I think you're going to have to define what's too much, but
Yes.
it's true. The issue is, if that's the only thing you use, for external validation, what happens when, I don't know, everyone in your life agrees with you or everyone in your life supports you and it gets real fucking healthy?
Right.
It's not going to work as well anymore.
Right.
So once again, great catalyst, works until it doesn't.
Yes. Oof. Um, what ignites motivation? I'm in such a slump lately.
Me too.
Me too. I was just gonna say I feel ya.
You're in a slump. What gives you joy? Focus less on motivation of doing something constructive that has to be productive in some way. And what would it be like to just give yourself joy and relief and to sit in the slump? Is it the worst thing in the world?
And when we're hard on ourselves for being in a slump, lack of motivation, then we just get less motivated to do anything. Sometimes, and Emily and I have this conversation because we go through periods of lack of motivation, and then we go through periods of like intense productivity. It's just kind of like our MO. It's just going through these.
That's ADHD. It's owning a business. ADHD.
Yeah. And so we've been in a period of lack of motivation more recently, I would say. And then we're like about to hit the fucking intense productivity. It's coming. I can feel it.
Yeah.
But we'll say to each other, oh, I'm just like not motivated. I just like don't feel like doing anything. But
we are both greatly affected by the change of seasons too. And like the change, like, right, like for us, like right now, like the election's about to happen and there's change of seasons and the time change here. And I think that all of that, it's like I can like feel myself saving my energy by shutting down now. I feel like I'm emotionally hibernating.
We're bears.
Exactly.
I'm a polar bear. No, I'm not. I don't want to live in that cold climate. Never mind. I take it back. I like Coca-Cola.
End joke there. You're taking it too far.
I'm still going.
What are you gonna do? Okay.
Oh, I know. Also, I know you're saying.
What is it?
There's an inflection. It's part of it. It's not even a saying. You say, and.
And that's what it is.
Like you can do this and
blah
blah blah blah.
You can hear my accent a lot in that one, huh?
Yeah.
And
I'm right? So sorry, Point. Now you're gonna notice.
Now
it.
I can hear it. Now I can hear my accent in it.
Yeah.
That's what my shirt would say.
And
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with
it.
I
think it's a good one.
And right,
because it's important.
It's nuanced, bitch.
It's nuanced. It's not a but. It's not a. All I had. That's all I had. Or it's not an or.
It's not a but or an or. It's an Annie. Okay,
there it is.
I do love Annie and pretzels though. I know that is off topic.
So does Bill. Like obsessed.
Do you think Bill wants to go on a date with me to Annie and pretzels? Pretzels. Does he? Oh, here's an idea.
Yeah.
Should Bill and I go to the Annie Ann's Pretzel Factory and take the tour?
You've been waiting to go, but hold on. I think I made a mistake. It's not Annie Ann's Pretzels. He loves Cinnabon. I don't
like Cinnabon. It's like too much for me.
I got my mall kiosk.
Yeah, your mall carbs. No, no, I think that Cinnabon is too much. It makes my head hurt.
Wow. Okay. Well, guess your date's canceled.
No, I used to when we were in high school. I used to always make Liz go to the mall with me and get a pretzel dog.
Like a hot dog and the pretzel.
I love those things.
I never knew.
You didn't know about my love for Annie Ann's? Do you think we can get them to sponsor the podcast?
Probably. Let's ask someone. Okay. I never knew.
Does anyone know anyone who works at Annie Ann's headquarters? You don't really see them anymore. I don't know if they're.
Can we get a tour?
No, I'm pretty sure you can just pay $20 and get a tour. I'm pretty sure it's like in Lancaster or some shit, dude.
It's so close to you. Why don't you go?
Yeah, should I go right now? Should I get off this podcast?
Yeah, get off of the podcast. I'll finish it because I love talking.
Okay, one more question. We have to. Okay, it's fine. What about spite towards yourself? The same as negative self-talk to motivate yourself. I don't like that.
I don't like it either.
But let me say this. I don't like that. We are therapists. We are biased. And it works. I guess if it works for you, there's some people like, I don't know. I'm not going to yuck your yum, but I don't think it's a good idea.
I have a thought about it. Okay. Cause now I'm thinking about like, how are you saying to yourself, I'm going to prove myself wrong?
Oh, that sounds different than what I was imagining. That sounds like a nice way of doing it.
So if you're that's kind of my thought.
Okay,
if
that's
you're
fine.
using kind of I'm going to prove myself wrong. Right. if so I think you first have to look at like what are the first thoughts you're having that you're
Yeah.
needing to prove yourself wrong. Like, are
Yeah.
you saying like I can't do this, I can never do anything? But like, what are those first thoughts? And then are you saying, well, I'm going to prove myself wrong? That's kind of nice because you're fighting against your initial thoughts about yourself. I would dig a
Okay.
little deeper to figure out like why are you saying those things to yourself to begin with?
I was thinking
How
you were saying like you're an idiot.
Oh yeah, no.
That you shouldn't do that.
Right, no, definitely
But I
not do
like
that.
your way. That's nice.
Yeah, like because if we're looking at the small s spite of I'm going to prove you wrong self, right? I can, I mean, we talked about this on last week's episode. I can walk up those stairs, even though my intrusive thought is telling me I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're using the spite as like, I'm going to fight against these like initial negative thoughts that I have about myself, and that's going to motivate me, then like go on with your bad self. I would also look at why do I talk to myself like that to begin with? And can that change over time? Um, because I think once you start proving to yourself that you actually can do all of these things, your internal model, your initial thoughts might change because you might just start saying, oh, I can do that. I've done that before.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Right.
Um, we're gonna do one final question, then we're gonna do Dear Em and Jen.
Okay.
How to rein in spite from past self in a way that gets the needs met respectfully.
In spite. Oh, like you're being spiteful of your past self.
Mm,
How to reign in spite of your past self
yeah.
in a
So
way
I
that
think that's the thing. Hating and causing harm to your past self will not help your current self. Right? You are also allowed to say, like, man, I really learned something. It didn't feel good when I was disorganized. Or it didn't feel good when I didn't clean up my house, right? Not like, oh, you're a lazy slob. Right? Like, here are the ways
yeah,
I could feel it affected my psyche, and here are the things I want to do to help myself more now. So, how do I meet it with curiosity and not judgment of the behavior?
beautiful.
Beautiful. Ready for Dear Em and Jen?
Yeah, you want to read it?
Yeah, you're gonna do so good.
Thank you so much. See, thank you so much. Instead of that's so nice. Thank you so much is my saying. Okay, I'm back. Dear Emma Jen, love your show. What's your take on this? My long-term partner, male, follows many beautiful Instagram model accounts. The pictures posted are not racy or overly sexual. They are, for the most part, beautiful women posting pictures of their everyday lives and sometimes in bikinis. I've mentioned several times over our long-time relationship that he follows these pretty girls, many of whom do not look like me at all. I realize that this is my own insecurity coming up when I see him scroll through these pictures. I don't want him to only unfollow them because of my insecurity, and I want him to be free to do what he wants. At the same time, clearly this affects me, but I don't want to ask him to take action. What are your thoughts?
Why don't you want to ask him to take action? If you need something in a relationship, you're allowed to ask for it.
Right?
Right? Like, what are you telling yourself? What's the story you're telling yourself about yourself if you ask for something? Hey, this doesn't make me feel good in our relationship. Would you consider not doing it?
Hmm? It sounds like he's, am I reading that wrong? That he would be willing to do it?
I don't
Or
know.
did it say, I've
We don't
mentioned
know
several
that.
times over our long term relation that they follow. Oh, I don't want him to only unfollow them because of my insecurity. And I want him to be free to do what he wants. I mean, listen, he is still free to do what he wants.
Yeah.
You're just
You're
as
allowed to
you're
ask.
free
Yeah.
to ask, to say, like, listen, this brings up some insecurity
He's
for
allowed to say
me.
no.
Yeah. Like, can you unfollow? He can say no. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. Um, the one thing I do want to say that I think is really important to remember, and that I think is easy to forget too when we're in a relationship, is that other people's beauty doesn't take away from your beauty, or like your partner, like looking at other people doesn't take away from your relationship.
No, but you're allowed to
And
have feelings around it.
you're allowed to have feelings around it. But I think so often, like, we assume that because we're in a monogamous relationship, if someone like looks at someone else, or that it means something about your relationship in some way.
Yeah.
And so, but this is a conversation that you can have within your relationship where you can say, like, this brings up some insecurity for me. I'm wondering kind of like what's going on for you. Cause like you, just as human beings, you're going to find other people attractive. That's just a natural human being um, response. But how much you're acting on it, I think is what matters. And to figure out how that affects your relationship and the connection between the two of you.
Part of me wants to be like, this is a good personal versus professional question.
Yeah. What would you do?
I would have feelings around it. I would feel the same way as this person. I would have feelings
Yeah.
around it. And I
Yeah.
would have feelings around the idea of what are you getting out of that?
Right.
What's it doing for our relationship for you to see that? I have no problem if we were on the street and you're like, that person's hot as fuck. Like, hell
Right.
yeah. I have no problem with real life images.
Yeah.
I get concerned over overly filtered images that are not real life. That is
Mm.
where it comes up for me. I do think that is putting other women to an unrealistic standard. So, like I said, if we're at the club, like I will go to the fucking strip club with you. On the club, in the club, we all fam. But like I'm like fine to go. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like
Are
Aaron and I have
you?
been to strip clubs together. Like I have no
Yeah.
problem looking at other women together, but I would have feelings over. I believe that Instagram is fake.
Because it's over like an
It's
overly
overly
filtered
filtered and
image.
edited. That is
And
where my
how is
problem is.
that affecting?
Yes. Expectations in a relationship, thoughts around women's bodies, that, you know what I mean? Like I do, that is where my thing, because I think about it in tons of, obviously you're hopefully dating an adult human. But I think about it in ton for young adolescent males as well.
Yeah.
And women and what are things. So my thing is more that.
So is that a conversation that you would have?
Yeah.
Right. Like,
Here's
hey,
why
like
this feels
is
different than like if we're out and we're looking at
yeah.
hot chicks on the street and real life. I have
Right.
no problem with real life bodies.
Right.
You
So I
know?
wonder if that's something that's coming up
Yeah.
for this person, right?
Yeah.
Like this
How
is
do you
affecting
compete? You
me.
can't compete with fake.
Right.
Right. And then it makes me feel like I have to be fake, right? Or what does my life have to look like? You know, that would be the conversation I'd want to have around it.
Okay. I like it.
Curiosity wise.
Right.
Feminist
Talking
perspective.
through it.
You
Yeah.
know? Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Like that is how I feel. You know? All right.
It's our show.
Let's go be spiteful bitches.
Yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Shrink Chicks.
We'll see you back here next week for another session.
In the meantime, if you want a question answered or a topic discussed, follow us on Instagram at ShrinkChicks. And if you're looking to get connected with a therapist like us to start or continue your therapeutic journey, visit thetherapygroup.com. Just fill out a contact form on our website, and we will personally match you with one of our amazing therapists. And for all of our therapists and group practice owners out there, we also offer group practice consulting.
And if you're looking to support yourself further and support our show, check out our amazing merch options at shrinkchicks.com/merch and our Know Yourself, Grow Yourself journal on Amazon. Also, if you'd be so kind, we'd love a rating, review, and for you to share with a friend or an enemy or a mother-in-law, honestly, whoever needs it, so that we can keep reaching more people on our mission to bring mental health topics to your ears every week.
Thanks for being here with us. And don't forget, to grow yourself, you got to know yourself.